Welcome back. I'm Helen.
I'm James.
And we are global nomads. And in 2024, we sold everything we owned to retire early and travel full time. So finally, we thought we'd give you our top tips if you're considering a journey like this or just part of it. I think the first thing for me would be about comfort, and that is to bring earplugs and an eye mask. If you are going to be sleeping on the train or you are just sensitive to noise, be sure to bring some earplugs. It is noisy. The train horn is blowing constantly, quite a lot of the time, as you go over crossings and roads, and at various times it seems like that horn is blown a lot. So bring some earplugs, and if you are planning on sleeping on the train, then bring an eye mask. In the roomettes and the bedrooms, there are curtains, but they're not completely blackout. And in the roomettes especially, the corridor between them, the lights are on all night. So the light does seep into the rooms. So if you are sensitive to light, bring an eye mask.
Another thing you should consider, which was one of your top tips, was an inflatable pillow. So you do get one pillow provided by Amtrak, and it's not like a hotel where you can request another pillow because there's only enough pillows for the number of carriages. And if there is a carriage or a compartment empty, you may well snag another pillow. But an inflatable pillow is the way to go. And they're not cheap, but they're very easy to pack, and we always travel with one.
We've got Sea to Summit camping pillows, which are almost the same size as a regular pillow when they're inflated. And they're really pretty comfortable, don't take too much to inflate, but they were good to use as a base underneath the pillow that was provided by Amtrak. We travel full time, so we found other uses for them as well. If you want them as a back support, a neck support, if you're on a plane ride, there's plenty of other uses for them as well. So we found them handy to have around until someone left one on one of the trains and we had to replace it anyway.
So before your journey, another thing you need to consider is make some purchases. We always carry a day pack that folds away, and then when we do something like an Amtrak journey, then we load it up with things. On this journey, we loaded it up with wet wipes, and we also had some snacks, some drinks. All of these things you could buy on the train, or you could pick up in the Metropolitan Lounge. But we brought a few extra supplies just to keep us going during the long journey.
In the main, the carriages and the roomettes are pretty clean, and the bathrooms are kept pretty clean. But it's really, if you think about when you travel on an airplane, it's the same thing. They never really have a deep clean. So I usually bring Clorox wipes or something like that, and you can wipe down the handles and the little table and that kind of thing in there just to make sure it's cleaner. That worked really well for us. And if you do buy snacks on the train, if you haven't been able to pick them up in the Metropolitan Lounge, they are a little bit more expensive than if you carry them on as well. The other reason that we bring that backpack is to put sleepwear in there as well, and a change of underwear. So there really isn't much room in the roomettes or the bedrooms, to be fair, to take your luggage. And if you're going up to that upper level, then hiking your luggage up there is not easy. So we typically just take our backpacks up there that have got our valuables in, laptops, cameras, all that kind of stuff. And then we use that day pack to also put in there our sleepwear and, like I said, a change of underwear, your toothbrush, whatever. Just the stuff you're going to need while you're actually on the train. It just means you've only got one bag and it's easily accessible.
The other thing that we put in the day pack is electrics. So on this journey, you are going to be using perhaps your phone to do whatever you want to do because it's a long journey, and your battery is going to run out. We have a power extension cord, and then we run all our devices off that. There's only one socket.
Yeah, there was one outlet typically in there.
And the socket always worked. The air conditioning didn't always work. The lights didn't always work, but the socket did. The other thing that didn't work is the Wi-Fi. We never managed on any of the journeys to get the Wi-Fi working, and we've never done it on an Amtrak and got it working successfully. It shows that it's there, but you get no speed. So if you are an international traveller, you need to have something like an eSIM like Airalo or some other version so that you do have data while you're on your journey.
Having said that, we still lived in the States when we did this. So we already had a local plan. We had a plan with Verizon. But because some of the areas you go to are remote, you're not necessarily going to have service. So if you are wanting to keep yourself entertained, you might want to bring an e-reader or download some Netflix or whatever your entertainment of choice is that doesn't need Wi-Fi, so that you have still got that available to you. Or if you're really old school, you could bring a paper book.
Another thing to consider is you're in America, there is a tipping culture. If you are American, you will be used to it. If you are international, then this is part of life. There are 3 people that you need to really tip. There is the red caps who bring out your luggage if you're in a roomette or you're in a bedroom.
If you choose to use that service.
If you choose to use that service.
You don't always have to use that service.
In some stations, you don't have an option. In some stations, you do, such as
LA had them, and Chicago. Most of the bigger stations where you'll board the train at the start of the journey will have a red cap service. So they're just like guys that are porters, basically, or they'll take you on a golf cart. If you've got limited mobility, they'll drive you on a golf cart and take you and your luggage to the train.
The second person that you need to consider to tip is your cabin attendant. So for example, for us, we were normally in, I think it was carriage 9, and the compartment directly next to us was where the cabin attendant would sleep. And they'll stay with you for the majority of the journey. They'll look after you with coffee. They'll make sure that the toilets are clean. They'll bring food to your room. They'll make sure you get off at the right stop.
And make your bed.
Make your bed. You're going to see a lot of them. And if
make friends with this person.
Make friends with this person. You want to be friends at the start of the journey, so you're still friends at the end of the journey. This cabin attendant has a lot to do. They look after the upper and lower compartments. So you need to make sure that be aware of their time, and they're going to be busy and they're going to have a lot to do. But they will always try and get you all the things that you need, and be nice to these guys and girls. They've got a lot to do. It's not the easiest working environment in terms of it's bumpy and things move and things get spilled. And they're up for long hours. So bear that in mind and look after them.
I also spoke to one of our attendants on the Coast Starlight, and he was telling me that he basically wanted to be off that train quick when we got to Seattle, because he only had something like a 12-hour turnaround before he had to go back and do the journey the opposite direction. And they're not always on the same route either. It's essentially like being a flight attendant, but there's no mandatory rest periods. So sometimes their rest periods are not that long between doing routes. And he could have been going to Seattle and then going Seattle to Chicago instead of going Seattle to LA. So they work long hours. So yeah, be sure to look after them.
The third person you need to consider to tip is the dining attendant. So for each of your meals, which is breakfast, lunch, and evening meal, you will be seated normally in a block of 4 people, and you will have a dining room attendant who will seat you and bring out your food and take your order. They'll also provide drinks. It's customary to tip that person after each meal. Another consideration with Amtrak is you need to make sure that any kind of plan as to where you're going to go at the end of your journey, or if you have any stops,
it's flexible.
It's flexible. It's flexible. It's the best word.
Because Amtrak's timetable is flexible.
Yeah, let's leave the word as flexible. Amtrak is notorious for running late, maybe an hour, maybe several hours, maybe longer than that. We were very lucky, and we only had a 3-hour delay in the 7 Amtrak trains that we had. But we did talk to one person who had a 15-hour delay. So trains do break down, and we have experienced that ourselves with Amtrak. So you have to consider that Amtrak is part of the journey, and you need to allow at least a day either side to make sure that there are no issues.
If you're not familiar with how Amtrak works, Amtrak actually don't own the rails that they run on. The rails themselves, the tracks themselves are owned by the freight companies, and Amtrak pay for the use of those. But what that does mean is they have to play second fiddle to the freight trains, because the freight trains are always going to take precedent because they own the tracks, and that can often result in lengthy delays. As well as that, there's I don't know why it is, but some people don't seem to know how to drive over a level crossing. So if there's been an accident with a car maybe, or an animal on the line, some of these areas are pretty remote. All of those things can create backups and delays, as well as does the engine break down, and so on. So yeah, be flexible in your plans. This is an adventure, remember. It's not an on-time arrival. If you are staying in a roomette or a bedroom, the door to your roomette or bedroom will lock from the inside only. So that does mean when you go to the dining car or you get off the train at a rest break area, that your stuff will be left in there unlocked. Now, we did leave our backpacks in there and we had our laptops in there. We never had a problem. If you are worried about that, though, you are going to need to keep your valuables on you at all times if that's a concern. When you are in a rest stop at a station for a lengthy period, and these do happen along these longer journeys, you might have a rest stop of up to like 45 minutes or even an hour in some stations where they'll clean the train, empty the tanks, change the crew, that kind of thing. The cabin attendant, though, will stay at the car. So then there's not going to be that anybody can just walk onto the train in the roomette or bedroom area carriages without getting past that attendant. So they'll know who's on and off the train. So there is some security that way. And honestly, the people who are riding these trains are typically like us. They're retired or they're vacationers, or, you know, obviously you need to use sensible precautions, but it's not a massively high risk environment, in my opinion, anyway, at least, that I would be super worried about crime.
As far as your luggage is concerned, we travel with carry-on only. So we have one carry-on case and one backpack each. The carry-on case we placed downstairs next to the door on the lower level. The two backpacks we took up the stairs and we put them in our roomette. We also had our day pack, which had our wet wipes and a few other things, electrics and things like that. There's not a lot of room in this roomette. You can't keep both your cases and both your backpacks in this roomette.
Yeah,
there's
that's
just
not enough room.
Swinging and cats is kind of all you've got the opportunity to do. So your luggage will stay downstairs and there is only limited room. So try and avoid getting on this train with two big airline style cases. For some people, you perhaps don't have that option. But if you have the option to travel light, then that is the best way to do any kind of train, whether it's Amtrak or
any travel.
Any travel, any travel light. But especially on Amtrak or especially on a train, you don't want to be lugging your luggage from one platform to another. So if you have the option, and not everyone does, but you have the option to travel lighter, then take it. It was a game changer for us.
If you do have to travel with a big check-in size case, though, you can check your luggage on Amtrak. They do have a luggage car. So when you board the train, you'll be asked if you want to check any luggage, and then they'll make sure that they get that on and off at the right station for you, wherever you're getting on and off. So it is an option. You don't have to keep it with you. But like James said, you know, if you can avoid doing it, then that's really the best way to be.
The other consideration is, if you have the option, is to try and break the journey up. Instead of going, I think two of the journeys that we did were 48 and 51 hours, which was the California Zephyr and the Empire Builder, which are two of the longest routes on the Amtrak itinerary. And we could have just sit on there and gone all the way to the destination. And lots of people did do that because they didn't have the opportunity or the time to be able to explore. Some of the stops that you make on the way really make the journey for us. We did some amazing stops, which all will be featured in upcoming videos, and really just added to the whole experience.
Definitely. In terms of booking, we booked everything online. Amtrak does have a pretty decent website, pretty easy to do, not a problem. A couple times a year, they do run a BOGO sale. And we were never able to take advantage of this because we didn't have specific dates that we knew in advance that we were going to travel. So if you can do that, I don't think there's any specific times of year they do it. But if you are interested in traveling on Amtrak, then sign up for their specials and you will get notified when they're running those offers. If you can't do that, like us, you can't know your specific dates ahead of time and be that flexible, then try and book as far in advance as you can. The earlier you can book in advance, the trains do sell out. So if you want a bedroom, for example, there's less of those. Make sure you try and book as early as you can. And just like when you fly, usually if you book as far ahead as you can, you're going to get the best price too. So that would be another top tip for booking.
Another thing you need to consider is to temper your expectations. You may be in a roomette, or you may be in a bedroom, or you may be in coach, but your experience on the train is still going to be the same. It's still going to be very loud. The train is not always the cleanest. I'm not saying it's dirty, but it's not always the cleanest. The service is not always 5-star. You are going there with the expectations of a 5-star experience, then this is not a 5-star.
This is not the Orient Express.
Train. No, this is not the Orient Express. This is a train that will get you from A to B through some of the most amazing and scenic scenery that you will ever see. But it will not do it in luxury. You need to understand that, and don't go on expecting that you'll be able to get new fluffy pillows and a fresh cold drink every 5 minutes or whatever else you need. This is not that kind of experience. This is a journey, and you should treat it that way and have a great time doing it.
If you are in a roomette or bedroom, you will have access to shower facilities. So in a bedroom, you're going to have your own in your bedroom, but it's teeny tiny. We have had a bedroom once, not on this route when we did a previous train, but it's tiny. It's doable, but it's tiny. On the lower left of the carriages, there are some shared showers and there are some more bathrooms. Now, we haven't ever actually used the shower on the train because we break up the journey.
When you said shared showers?
Well, yeah, like... open to everyone. You don't have to share.
Not at the same time.
It's not a group shower. It's not that kind of train.
Might attract more people.
So there are some facilities available, and there are plenty of towels and soap and all the rest of it available in there. And these were kept pretty clean. We've never used them, but I have seen them. If you are bothered, though, you might want to bring some shower shoes if you want to have a shower, though, if you're that bothered about that. Or your own towel as well. They do provide towels and they look pretty clean to me, and there was always a good stock of them. But again, if you're a little bit more picky about that and want to bring your own towel, you might want to do that as well as your shampoo. If you're bothered about your hair and what shampoo you use, I don't think the Amtrak shampoo is going to be LMS or anything. So you might want to bring your own toiletries if you don't want to use like the basic ones that they provide as well. The other types of bedrooms that are available on the lower level of the cars are a family bedroom. Now, this bedroom doesn't have its own bathroom, but it does sleep more people. I believe it will sleep at least 2 adults and 2 kids, or 4 people if you know each other really well. But there's no bathroom. You will have to use the shared bathroom. The opposite end of the carriage is going to be an accessible bedroom as well. Now, I have been in there as well. There is its own bathroom facilities, but it just has a curtain around the toilet. But you can wheel a wheelchair in there, and there is some extra space and grab handles and things are lower set and all that kind of stuff. So if you do have mobility issues, for sure, that's an option for you. If you're not able to climb the stairs up to the upper level of the cars as well, be sure to request or try and book, when you book online, a bedroom or roomette on the lower level. It will be a little bit more noisy down there because you are closer to the tracks and the wheels, but you're not going to have to climb the stairs. On the long distance routes, Amtrak operate 2 different types of trains. So there's a Viewliner or a Superliner. On the East Coast routes, it's going to be a Viewliner. Now, these trains are single level. They're not quite as tall as the Superliners because there's some height restrictions on the East Coast routes. And if you are unlucky enough to get one of the carriages that has not been refurbished for a roomette, then right next to your 2 seats is going to be your own in-room toilet. Why anybody ever thought this was a good idea, I don't know. But on some of the older unrefurbished carriages, there's literally a toilet and a sink right next to your seat. I mean, if you're desperate in the middle of the night, maybe for a number one, I don't know. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. On the newer refurbished carriages, they have removed those toilets. The sink is still there. Look, who wants to do that? The sink is still there. It's like a fold-down sink. So if you're unlucky, you may get one of those carriages with the toilet in still. Or lucky, maybe you like that. Maybe that's your thing.
Maybe we're the wrong channel for that.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's the Viewliners, and they are typically on the East Coast routes. On the cross-country routes and on the West Coast, they operate Superliner carriages, and these are going to be double-decker. So the Viewliners all on one level. The Superliners are going to be double-decker. So on the lower level, there's some roomettes and bedrooms and a luggage storage area, and then up a small flight of stairs, which is actually quite steep. They are going to be a whole nother level with more roomettes and bedrooms. So that's going to be the 2 different types of trains. You'll see the option when you book online as well. Like I said, if you're in a roomette and you can make it up those stairs, try and go on the upper level. I think it's a bit quieter and a bit more comfortable, although you may get a little bit more motion because of physics, the center of gravity is going to rock a little bit more, but it's not noticeable. I would take that over being lower down on the wheels, personally.
As far as the sleeping experience goes, I'm upper bunk man, as Helen would call me. Helen is lower bunk woman. That means it's you have to literally climb up to get onto the bunk. Once you're in the bunk, there is very little clearance between your nose and the actual roof of the train.
This is in the Viewliners.
This is in the Viewliner.
In the Superliner, there actually is a bit more headroom on the upper bunk as well.
But still not.
But it's
you're not going up
apparently,
there.
I don't know. I didn't go up there. But yeah, there is a little bit more room, I think.
So there's enough room to comfortably turn over. It's difficult to get changed in bed or to do anything in bed. You would normally get changed and then climb into the bedroom, into the actual bed itself. Now, once you're actually in bed, it's more than adequate in terms of comfort level. You still have the issues of noise, which Helen's already talked about, and movement. The big difference is that on Helen's bunk, it's slightly wider. And on my bunk, on the upper bunk, you have this netting, which I think I've got some video of the netting, and if so, I'll try and include it. The netting actually stops you from falling out of the bunk. And believe it or not, it's essential on some of the routes. Not all of them, but there is a lot of movement on this train. So there are these 2 big metal hooks, and they have almost like a cargo net between the 2, and they are secured before you go to sleep. And then you will roll around in the night, but you won't fall out onto the floor, so you won't do yourself any kind of major injury. And then when you get up, you will take this netting down, and this seat will push back up, and that will give you head clearance for when you're sitting there during the day.
And to get up there in the roomettes, there's like a sort of step area to help you climb up. And in the bedrooms, there's an actual ladder, which from memory was fixed, and on the lower bunk was a bit annoying. To give you an idea on width, in the roomettes, I think the lower one is about 22 inches wide, and the upper one is maybe like 20, I think, or 21.
21. Yeah,
the bottom one is very slightly wider. In the bedroom, though, if you do want a bigger bed, the lower bunk actually is like a bed and a half, like a 3/4 bed. It's much wider. I think it's something like 36 or 38 inches wide, whereas the topper bunk, I think, is about 22 again. So if you do want a bit more room, as lower bunk lady, in the bedroom, it was much more comfortable, I have to say. If you are living in a bigger body, shall we say, it's
that a new word?
It's a lot more comfortable. But the roomette bed was absolutely fine too. It was plenty of room for me. You can sit up. There is enough room to sit up as well, because you can still see out the window. If you're on the top bunk, there's no window. But it's pretty comfortable, honestly. It's really not that bad. The hardest thing is, like James said, getting changed. You might want to either go downstairs to do that, or we just kind of do a bit of a twister.
Yeah, you
game
think, yeah.
to try and get changed in there to get into bed.
The other consideration is top bunk is obviously going to be hotter. Air conditioning isn't always the most effective on these trains, and you will have different versions of the carriage, some newer and some older. So it will get a little bit hotter up there, but it's still not.
But the vent is in the ceiling, so
Yeah,
the vent blows onto whoever is in the top bunk. So in the lower bunk cube, I'm going to have a bit more of a cut off of air. You know, it's pros and cons. I will say as well, if you need to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, keep some flip-flops handy. You're not going to want to walk into that bathroom, just like an airplane. You will not want to walk into that bathroom barefoot or in your socks. So try and keep some slippers or flip-flops or something you can slide on easily to be able to walk to the bathroom.
Consider that the bathroom will be cleaner at the start of the journey than it will be at the end of the journey, where it will be deep cleaned and rotated. So to bear that in mind. The other thing to consider with the bunk is it's very useful to put your things in there during the day when you're sitting down and trying to relax. So it's on a latch.
Yeah, you can lower it like halfway down, so you don't need to lower it completely flat. It like stops halfway. So we pulled it down slightly, and we were able to fit our backpacks up there and keep them out of the way during the day. And it's still locked up. Still give you plenty of headroom.
Just a little bit less.
Just a little bit less, yeah.
During the journey, there are very brief stops where the train will just take on passengers and you're not really allowed to get off. There'll also be smoke breaks, which are a little bit longer. And then there'll be longer stops of up to an hour where everyone can get off and stretch their legs. What I would say to you is always be mindful that that train is going to go whether you're on it or not. So a bit like a cruise ship. So be close to the train so that when that horn goes, you can run back onto that train.
Yeah, they will blow the horn just before they leave. So as soon as you hear the horn, that's it. Start running. You need to get back on.
We have been very used to trains across Europe. And in Europe, you're allowed to open the door of your train or lower the window by the door of the train as you're approaching the station. I did this on Amtrak and was told off and was told that if I do it again, I will be kicked off the train. The only people who can open and close the doors are your conductor or cabin attendant. And that's a very strict rule.
Amtrak staff, basically.
Amtrak staff are the only ones who can touch the doors, and you're not allowed to. So that is very different to many trains in Europe. The other thing to consider with trains in Europe is these trains are huge in terms of their length and in terms of their height. These things are massive. Some of them have got 2 engines pulling the carriages, and there is absolutely tons of.
The carriages in track are wider as well. So American trains are basically wider and taller and bigger. And like everything in America, it has to be bigger. It's bigger if you're used to traveling in Europe, for sure. These are definitely much bigger trains.
Hope you enjoyed our top tips on how to survive Amtrak and travel across America. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.